Let's do it. Get the People Paid, episode 2 coming at you here on Gozilla Media. Of course, you can catch us every single week. We will have an episode out. Get the People Paid here on Gozilla Media. Of course, you can check us out at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Of course, our YouTube page as well, where you'll have your weekly selections coming up here. I'm your host, Brian Mariano, and after episode 1, we went through a lot of educational stuff for you bettors out there. But after this past weekend with New York State opening up everything to mobile sports betting, we have now allowed a whole new plethora of people that want to come in and get a little bit more knowledge before they put down their dollar bills. And of course, you can look at getting all of our odds that we use here on this show will be on DraftKings Sportsbook. If you want to download that app, you can get the same odds, props, and everything that we're going to use here on Get the People Paid. But episode 2, there's no Goz. It's just me, closer. But wait, no, it isn't. We have a special surprise for you here on episode 2. And I'm introducing another co-host to the program here on Get the People Paid. And it's the one, the only, Jimmy Mariano, my brother. There he is. If you're on the YouTube side, you can see him joining in here. And he will be joining me for all of the episodes now and Get the People Paid. Why? Well, because I'm getting sick of talking by myself. 1, 2, he's also the luckiest guy you've ever met in your entire life. So, Jimmy, welcome to the program. You're now a new co-host here on Get the People Paid. Tell the listeners a little bit about you and how you got into the wagering ways that you are now.
Appreciate it, Brian. Well, growing up with the degenerate that you are and our father, started with horse racing. From there on out, I actually coach basketball. Sports have always been a big part of my life. And now being able to see it from this money side, looking at lines every single day, figuring out where the money's going, the public, what they like, and our sharp bettors as well, seeing how the lines change throughout the day, right up until game time and how it's going to affect, the play itself.
So obviously you prefaced a little bit, obviously it's a family trait for us, very much into horse racing. We talked about that a little bit in the first episode, and we'll get into that when we get more guests down the line. Obviously, we just turned the new year, so on the horse racing side, it's a little bit of a downtime until these prep races start going, but there's no doubt there'll be plenty for the racing person and handicapper on Get the People Paid. But Jimmy, just another couple things on your background. Obviously, we know a lot about each other, but for the listeners out there, listeners out in Syracuse follow a lot of college basketball. Obviously, here in the Albany area, we have UAlbany Siena. Is there something that you like more than others? Obviously, we all know that I'm big into horse racing. I tend to like the NFL, but might not be the easiest to gamble on. Is there a sport or something that you feel the most comfortable with when you want to put dollars down?
Yeah, basketball, and specifically college basketball. I think that's where a lot of the money can be made. For me, I think NBA is a little too up in the air, but college basketball can normally stay right where I want it for the most part. So I've gotten off to a great start to the season. Underdogs are big in college basketball. A lot of upsets already. Baylor's just coming off their first loss of the season last night against Texas Tech. So college basketball, a lot of those plays going to be coming your guys' way from me. That's where I'm going to be staying. And, we're right in the heart of it, right before March Madness.
No doubt about it. Yeah, we've turned the calendar now. So many of you know, even with my time with UAlbany, this is the time in college basketball where you start getting into conference play. So you got to really pay attention to matchups. And just with my time with UAlbany, that was a lot of what the coaching staff would talk about, matchups, because you might have a team that's really good on paper, but they don't match up well enough with a team, especially the second time around when you play them in these smaller conferences. Because I will look a lot, and I know, if you use DraftKings, now you're able to look at some of these New York teams, and I've been able to follow a lot of Siena, UAlbany, so you might see that more in episodes coming up in the future where I'll have a little bit more of a background and familiarity with the MAC and the America East. But even for you, bro, it's a lot of looking at what teams have coming into the season, even when it's November. But then there's also another way to look at it when you get into this time of year where teams are trying to fight for that last spot to get into March Madness, into the conference tournaments as well.
Yeah, especially this year, college basketball, I think this has been one of the best starts to the season. And I think that's because of this COVID year, a lot of grad transfers, teams getting new players. I'm a big Duke fan. I thought Theo John was one of the best transfers that we could have gotten in the area from Marquette. But then you can look at other sides, like Penn State getting Pickett from Siena. He's gotten off to a great start to the season. And like you said, with conference play right now, seeing how teams are transforming into what they're going to be down the playoff stretch.
All right, absolutely. College basketball will be a big part of this program here over the next 3 months. But of course, we want to thank all of us that helps Godzilla Media get on the air. We want to thank Mohawk Honda, John Stone Supply as well. A lot of our great sponsors that will help get you all of these podcasts and get you the information you're looking for, especially on our program. A lot of it when we know you're putting your hard-earned money down to try and help you as much as possible to walk out with those. Again, we're using DraftKings Sportsbook for a lot of these odds that you're going to see throughout the program. If you're on the YouTube side, if you're just listening, obviously Spotify, Apple, you can find us on all of the platforms to get these podcasts here at Gozilla Media. But we'll stay in the college program now, bro, as we'll go and look at this past week on Monday night. College football national championship game. The Georgia Bulldogs pull away late and take down Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. And when you looked at this on Monday, I know we were watching the game together, and I know I've talked with guys, talked with a lot of other people. It's almost this weird thing when, and I said this to you before the game, when a lot of people are against Alabama, I'm afraid, because then I feel like Alabama, as the lights were shut out on Alabama, Georgia was able to take over. And I'm usually a little weird here as we're sitting in a room where I have these timely lights. I'll have to take care of that when you break down the game. But when it comes to looking at this game, how did you look at it? And did it play out the way that you had expected?
Yeah, so number one, us being Alabama fans for the longest period of time, as the lights shut out on me as well.
We're both doing this. But look at you.
I grab mine.
Bro, you got the
these
Bluetooth
automatic
headphones.
lights, man.
You got the Bluetooth headphones, so I got to upgrade. I'm still using these cheap ones, man. We're early on here.
We'll get there. We will
get this up. It'll look like a prided program here. But your thoughts now that the lights are back on, and what you thought about the national championship game on Monday?
Yeah, so Alabama, growing up, Alabama fans, I certainly would have loved to see them win, but that's not where Vegas was telling us to kind of put our money towards. And the reason for that is Alabama and Georgia, as you guys know, met up in that SEC championship game. Bama comes out the real deal, blows them out of the water. Doesn't look like anybody's going to be able to compete with Alabama for the rest of the season. And they show that against a really good Cincinnati team as well in the first round of the college football playoff. Georgia, I think, was a little bit more battle-tested in that game against Michigan. Michigan also has that good front and that defensive line, and Georgia just kind of ran the ball down their throat. Going into this college football championship game, Vegas was telling you that Georgia was going to be the team to beat. Okay, so Alabama ranked number one, they blow out Georgia, and yet somehow Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite going into that game. And I know plenty of people that took Alabama plus the points and money line. They said, "Oh, I can get Alabama at plus the points. Why not?" And I don't blame those people for that thinking. And the same reason a lot of people had taken the over at 52.5, which if you took that over, wow, I give it to you. They made it close. They made it a game. However, I was on Georgia's side. I loved Georgia before that game. And when it's 9-6 at the half, it was the exact game that Georgia wanted. Okay, they wanted that slow game, being able to stay in it. They made some great plays where Alabama's down in the red zone and Georgia's defense stepped up. And then Georgia gets the big defensive play to really seal the deal at the end of the game with the pick six, which, brought that over under just within 1.5.
Boy, did it ever. And I was one of them, as you said. A lot of people that looked at the game was looking, if Georgia was going to pull it off, it was going to be an under game. And I looked at it a little bit differently. Obviously, we'll always be open and honest here when we were wrong. And I looked at the game and I said this to you, even at halftime when it was 9-6, you go, this game has to open up, because at some point, both coaches wanted to try and run the ball and they knew they couldn't. So you have to open it up, open the field up, start taking shots downfield. Alabama did that in the first half. They just couldn't score touchdowns. And when you play against Georgia, you need to score touchdowns in the red zone. If you don't, you're going to see exactly what happened on Monday night. Georgia was able to make big plays, timely plays. And as you mentioned, that turnover at the end of the game that created the touchdown. And I'm sitting there thinking, boy, I could really get to this 52.5 at some point. But as you'll see a lot with us, and I know we mentioned it a little bit in the first episode, and I know this is something you love to do, bro, and I've grown accustomed to it now because you're able to do it with all of the availability here in New York with the mobile sports betting, is to live bet games. And that's a lot of what I did on Monday, being wrong about the over early and looking at 9-6. And a lot of what I did was over live in the second quarter, over the second half, Georgia. And I was on Georgia a lot in this game. And the worst part was, as I prefaced this when we started the segment, when it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And a lot of times Vegas knows. And that's kind of like the phrase that you're going to hear an awful lot on this program, because they don't have those big, nice buildings out there in Vegas for nothing. They make money. They know what they're doing. And when they made Georgia a 2.5-point favorite, I said, boy, they were 6-point favorites in the SEC championship game. They got blown out. So you would think that the next move is to overreact and make Alabama the 3-point favorite there, which I thought was going to happen after the semifinal games. When they came out with 2.5 with Georgia, I go, boy, they know something. They know something. So at that point, I had to jump on the Georgia train. Just unfortunately wasn't able to get the over there in the parlay, but I lived a couple times with 43.5 and the over in the second half. So it would make it a little bit of a profitable wager. But this game had a lot of implications. And I don't know how you feel about the injury early in the game, if that changed the landscape. And I know that there was the video at the end of the game where Nick Saban and was talking about how much a lot of these guys meant to this team. When you lose a top wide receiver like Alabama did, do you think that played a huge outcome in the end of the game?
I don't think it played a huge outcome. I mean, obviously, I feel for the guy. Hopefully he's able to make a full recovery after that torn ACL. But I think most times in professional sports in general, players like to rise to the occasion. Okay, at college, it needs to happen on many times throughout the season. And they had another guy step up. Their tight end makes a big catch, runs down the sideline for, 50-yard reception. Guys were able to step up. They just came up a little bit short. So I'm sure would they have loved him to be on the field and that last possession of the game? Absolutely. Get a deep threat in there. But I don't think that overall that played a huge outcome played a huge part in the outcome of that game. I do want to, mention something about that live betting as well that you can get with these mobile apps now in New York. And that is Georgia being down by 5 points in the second half. You could have gotten them at a plus 190 money line to win that game, or getting 4.5 points. So just, seeing how they can go from a 2.5 or maybe a 3-point favorite to a 4.5-point dog just in the second half. It's really a place where you can middle your money.
Yes. And then you'll heard terms like middling like that, where you're just trying not to lose as much as your initial investment. I would cautious until you're comfortable doing things like that. Be very cautious with the live wagers, because if you consistently, it could have been very bad for me if Alabama had turned the tide in the second half and ended up winning and it didn't cover, because I've had a strong feeling this game was going to have points in the second half, and I was able to get paid off for that. It doesn't always happen like that. So don't really jump into the deep waters until you're really ready, or just try some small wagers. Get comfortable with it first before you start, firing away any sort of big numbers. And of course, on this program, we never ask you to bet more than you're able to do. This is something where we will help you to try and point you in the right direction. We all want to try and make some money now that this is available in New York State, and our listeners out there in Syracuse as well, who are able to go and bet on these games. Just make sure you set yourself a limit. Don't go anywhere over that you can't handle it. So, bro, as we leave the college ranks and we go into the NFL, we look at Super Wild Card Weekend, where this is a weekend. If you love the NFL, you have 3 straight days of it, 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and, of course, that Monday night matchup with Arizona and the Rams. If you look at this weekend, we will go through each one of these games quickly, and then we have a couple picks that we like. Again, this show is usually going to be aired on Wednesdays or earlier in the week, so some of these lines might change if you're listening to us later in the week, if you're listening to us for the Sunday games or even for the Monday night games of Rams Cardinals, they might change a little bit. So this is stuff in lines that we're getting on Wednesday afternoon. And even some of the bets we might give you a few days out, things might change. So obviously, please do your homework. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Get the People Paid, or on Twitter, as you see scrolling here on the YouTube side, it's at Get People Paid, all the capital letters G, P, and P, at Get People Paid on Twitter. My Twitter feed is at Mariano_closer. Bro, I know you have one that you want to give out. So if you're giving any picks, you can follow him as well.
Yeah, at Mariano_1212 to get my picks, and mostly college basketball, but we'll be around.
Yeah, so you can follow us. Of course, we'll both have access to that Twitter page at Get People Paid. Of course, you can hit us up there on Twitter as well. And if you have any picks that you like, if you have any questions, of course, find us on Twitter and, of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well here for Gozilla Media. NFL Wildcard Weekend, bro. We'll start off with Saturday and a game that I don't know if a lot of people are interested in. It might be a good game, though. The Las Vegas Raiders against Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, we have them at 5.5 in this game, and 49 is the over-under. So Bengals minus 5.5, 49 is the total here. Your thoughts on this game, and kind of we'll give you where we were thinking even with the normal spread, or we might go halves, quarters, whatever it is, and then a prop bet that you like in this game.
Well, my initial thinking was to touch that over-under at 49. But the most thing that I'm worried about, the biggest thing that I'm worried about is Cincinnati starting to blow the doors off this game. This is a Raiders defense that I don't think should be in the playoffs. If the Chargers played their game right, they'd be in there as well. But we're not going to go back to that last game against the Raiders and Chargers, and I'm sure everybody's happy about what the ending there. I love the Bengals here at minus 5.5. I think that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to continue what they were doing all year. Bengals defense has been inconsistent, but I think that they're going to show us that they're a young team that has a chance to make it pretty far in these playoffs.
Yeah, this game's pretty interesting to me, too, because when I looked at it, I was just like, I'm not sure if this game is going to live up to the hype of what we watched last weekend with the Raiders and the Chargers. And of course, you can listen to how we feel on that if you follow us on Twitter, because I couldn't believe the ending of that game, but that's for another time. This seems like a game that could go up and down. And I'm just thinking, with the Bengals getting back everyone that they were sitting last weekend, I think they want to run it. I think they want to pound it down Las Vegas's throat and make this game shorter. And if they need to, set up that play action pass with Joe Burrow. I like the under in this game. It's 49. And I do think at some point, I agree with you, Cincinnati's going to take control of this game. I just feel as if Las Vegas is not going to be able to score more than 2 touchdowns. I see this game right on a number of 31-14, something of that aspect. So I don't see them getting to the total of 49 in this matchup. If you have a prop bet, bro, I'm going to go, I'll jump you here. And because I think that Cincinnati will take control of it, I like the over in Carr's passing yards at 253.5, because ultimately I think Cincinnati's going to take control. They're going to be down a couple scores. They're going to have to throw the ball. And yes, Carr gets sacked a lot, but they throw the ball more than most teams in the AFC, and I could see this happening in the second half, him getting over that 253.5 passing yards.
I like the thinking there. I'm going to go the other way with anytime touchdown scorer. I know that you had mentioned Joe Mixon, but I really don't like the minus 165 odds that they have him at right now. So I'm going to go with a wide receiver and not Jamar Chase. I think that the Raiders are going to try to lock him down a little bit too much. I'm going to go with T. Higgins at plus 130 odds for an anytime touchdown scorer for the Bengals here.
And that's a fun prop bet for many people that don't play him. It's one where you can find a lot of value, and all it takes is one play for it to happen. And if you're able to hit that once, you can find some long shots that could really hit big time. That's something that I would look into as well. Anytime touchdown scores. And of course, I'm getting the lights thrown out on me again here. These timers, we're going to have to work on this for future episodes. But when you look at the next game, and this one where a lot of people that listen to us here in the upstate New York area, the Syracuse area are going, especially in Western New York, are going to be into this game. New England at Buffalo. Buffalo is a 4-point favorite. And when you look at this and how that's going to show up, I don't know in this game if there's going to be a lot of points scored. I saw the first matchup where New England ran it down their throat, and I saw the second matchup where everyone was all over Buffalo, and I love Buffalo in this game. I do think they win, but that 4 number is just so enticing, and I see them winning this game. It could be by 3. They very well could cover, but I like the under in the game at 44. What do you think, bro?
Yeah, I don't know if you were looking at my notes for before the game, but yes, I love the under at 44, and I love it so much that since this show has started, the over-under has moved down to 43.5. So we have moved down a half a point. So hopefully you guys catch this show earlier on in the week and it doesn't continue to move down anymore. But we have moved down to 43.5, and I still love it at that number. I probably love it down to 42.5, but as we hit to that 42 mark, we hit one of those numbers that can be hit easily.
Yeah, once you start getting into the 41 range, I think it's dangerous. So, if we use the units measurement, whatever you say your base is that you play, let's say it's $20 a game. If we say 1 unit, that means you bet your 1 unit. If it's double, we'll say 2 units, we bet $40. Usually if you make it easy, it's off a $100 wager. I do like, if it hits under 42, then I'm probably going to stay away. It's just too close to things that could happen, especially with these two teams and how cold it's going to be in Buffalo. Knowing what the Patriots want to do, if I looked at a prop in this game, I like the over in Harris rushing yards for New England. It's 60.5, and I think they're going to ride him a lot with Mac Jones and the way that he played towards the end of the year. Bill Belichick's going to keep it short and sweet, a lot of easy runs, short passes. I'm going to take the over in Harris rushing yards, 60.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it as imagine Nick Saban and George are going against each other once again, that both of these coaches can be stubborn, especially Belichick. He's going to want to run the ball again. That's how they won the last game against them. I'm going to actually go with another anytime touchdown scorer. Also going to stay away from the running backs here. I'm going to go with one of my favorite wide receivers in the league at Stephon Diggs at plus 140 odds. I think those are great odds. Stephon gets plenty of receptions per game. If when Buffalo gets that ball into the red zone, he will be a target and probably their number 1 target on the outside. So I'm going to go anytime touchdown scorer for him.
I know you're a big fan of the anytime touchdown scorers. If you can hit on a couple of those, I had over a Sunday night where I played 3 separate ones and was able to hit all 3. So you can absolutely have a game where you make a lot of money off of the anytime touchdown scorers. So if you feel comfortable with that, my suggestions you can hear Jimmy doing the first 2 is don't just sell out for the ones that are minus odds, because you can tend to, yes, it's going to be most often that, you find a lot of these players like a Mike Evans or Rob Gronkowski, guys that normally will score, you might not get great odds on, so I would tend to stay away from them. And if you are looking for better value, I would take shots when you do anytime touchdown score. It's just my point of view. But when you do stuff like that, don't be afraid to kind of have fun with it and sprinkle half units. Don't go crazy when it comes to that stuff. But Saturday's done, bro.
Before we move on to that next game, I do want to say that DraftKings does have a promo available in this game. Unfortunately, it's both against us, but it is hammer the over. Okay, hammering the over. They will drop it down a half a point by game time. So if it starts at 43.5, they will move it down to 43 if you bet the over in this game.
Okay, all right, there you go. Finding promos there for DraftKings. Of course, that's the official sports book here that we're using here for Get the People Paid. As we move on to Sunday, bro, 1:00 game, Philadelphia, the Eagles and the Fighting Jalen Hurts traveling down to Tampa for Tom Brady to try and get yet another Super Bowl. And no one's looking really at Tampa right now with the whole Antonio Brown saga and everything going on. They're kind of under the radar here in the NFC, but they're 8.5-point favorites. 46, I have the number for Tampa Bay. Not really sure. I'll let you go first here. Where are you looking if you're looking at any sort of line for this game?
Yeah, Philly's been playing great as of late. won many games down the stretch just to get into the playoffs. We're going to kind of X out that game against the Cowboys end of the season. It's just kind of get out there and throw the football around. However, I agree with Tampa Bay. I think being overlooked a little bit. Tom Brady has had an MVP caliber season, and I know that you know how I feel about that MVP caliber season. But
Yep.
I love Tampa Bay here, minus the 8.5. I'll go up to almost 10, 9.5. 10 being that push button, but 8.5 for sure here with the Bucs, and I think that Tom Brady and the Bucs kind of can run it down the Philadelphia's throat and throw it when necessary.
Yeah, when you start looking at now this team, they tend to start hitting their stride. It's almost like Tom Brady in the New England era when they would hit their stride going into the playoffs and really look comfortable. And for me, I think 8.5 is always kind of a weird number because you're in between the 7, in between the 10. I would have to agree with you. The problem is this is a game. If we're forced each other to pick these games, I probably would stay away from it just because I think Philly can run the ball, and I think they're going to try and hold on to it as much as possible. So, yes, with the spread 8.5, probably they end up covering. I might end up taking. I'm like going to be Mr. Under the entire weekend, but usually that's my motto. But I like the under in this game too, 46, because I think both teams have the ability to run the football. That Philly's the top rushing offense in the NFL. So I think they're going to try and keep the ball away from Tom Brady. That seems to be the recipe. I like the under at 46.
I don't blame you there. If I had to take one of the over or the under, I would definitely be on that underside as well. We could talk a little bit about JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, and the defensive end for the Buccaneers, undefeated in his playoff game so far at 12-0, an unreal statistic for any position player. So if you're not comfortable giving up that 8.5, but maybe you want to throw the Buccaneers in a parlay, they are at minus 400. So maybe you can find your money somewhere else. But if you want to play this game, but you're not sure if they can cover that 8.5, they are at minus 400 on the money line right now.
Yeah, and that's I like the way you're looking to it. If I'm looking somewhere, it's probably going to be. You can even look at first half lines. Is 4.5. I probably would take Tampa in the first half then if that's me. I think they're up 7 at halftime. It's 14-7, something like that. And then they kind of impose their will when it comes to the second half. A lot of props I was looking at in this game, and usually where I like to look at is the easy one here is Jalen Hurts rushing yards. They've been over, I think, 6 out of the last 8 weeks, and that's just what this team does. So if I looked at a couple anytime touchdown scores. You might want to sprinkle a unit or so on Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown score. He's plus 250 right now. I would like him, and I like the over in his rushing yards. I found it at 47.5, and that's usually what they end up doing. Run the ball. He'll pull it out a couple times, have a couple big runs. That's where I'm looking at in this game if you're looking for some props.
All right, I'm actually going to stay away from our anytime touchdown scorers here. I'm actually going to go with an alternate line and take the Bucs in a teaser here. Okay, so we're going to start our teaser with the Buccaneers, and I'll finish off the teaser in our next game that we get into. But I'm going to take that Bucs here at minus the 2.5. So all they have to do is win by a field goal there. Also, if you have the alternate line somewhere that you could also take the Buccaneers minus the 10, like I said, I think that they're good up until that number at least. I think that Tom Brady really shows out this game against Philly.
Yeah, there you go. You're looking at Philadelphia and Tampa Bay at 1 o'clock on Sunday. And one of the prime games, San Fran, who is one of the hottest teams in the NFC right now, traveling down to Dallas, who they throw up 51 points in a game that they probably didn't need to have, but they did against Philly. Philly not playing a lot of their guys. But you look at this game, bro, Dallas still a 3-point favorite. You look at it at home, Vegas sees this as a pick 'em. 50.5 is a number that I'm afraid of, and I'm not sure where to go here. I'm interested to see where you're looking in this game.
So Dallas Cowboys are just one of those teams that I cannot get behind as a Giants fan. But I also can't bet against them either because of how much they do cover and how they are America's team for that. Okay, so I'm going to finish off my teaser here with San Francisco. I normally won't play a favorite in the teaser because I'd rather get the points the other way. So I'm going to take San Fran plus the 9 and add that with that Bucks minus the 2.5 to complete my teaser.
Yeah, so you can play 2-team teasers right there. You'll end up getting right around minus 110. So if you want to throw a unit on there, it would cost you 110 to win 100 when you play those teasers and move them around. So I like, I'm a big proponent of that. When you play teasers, it's hard to play favorites, but when you move it to certain numbers, so you don't gain much here if you take the Cowboys because it goes from -3 to +3, which is okay, fine, I get it to 3, but if they lose by 3, what does it make a difference? What are you trying to do? I like you going the other way and grabbing the extra 9 points. This is the game where usually I'm Mr. Under. I think this game goes over because I think Dallas can score. I think San Fran can score as well. They're starting to feel themselves on offense. Dallas's defense has been very opportunistic. Micah Parsons already is defensive rookie of the year, could very well be defensive player of the year. They have Diggs in the secondary. He's got 10 interceptions. But I think San Fran can still score on them. So 50.5. I like the over in this game. I think there'll be some points scored in a true NFC wildcard matchup. And that's kind of where I'm looking at a game that could really be kind of a shootout on a weekend that doesn't look like it'll have many of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump right into my prop bet here. A little bit different than we've been doing so far. But you mentioned this Cowboys defense and how great they've been playing. Jimmy Garoppolo, although I'm going to be taking the Niners plus 9, I think they stay in this game because of their defense. Which is why I'm going to be taking Jimmy Garoppolo to throw an interception in this game. That's where I'm going to be heading. I don't know if it'll be Diggs, but I think the Cowboys will grab one. I mean, take it. Lawrence has grabbed one on the season. Micah Parsons has grabbed him on the season. They could get an interception anywhere on the defensive side of the football. So I'm going to say Jimmy G to throw an interception.
Yeah, they get that right around minus 130 right now for him to throw an interception. And I'm looking at some TD scores here, bro, because this is a game, if I think there's going to be a lot of points, I'm going to find a little bit of value here when I could find some anytime touchdown scorers. And when you look at, if you like Jimmy G to throw the interception, you can grab the Dallas defense at plus 380. I'm going to go Dak Prescott here at plus 400. I think he's been a guy in the red zone that they want to extend plays and get him out of the pocket. And if you get an opportunity, he very well, even if from the 1 yard line, they hand it to Zeke one time, it doesn't work. He ends up running it right up the middle or in a bootleg, runs it in. I think you get great value there at 4-1. So I'm going to take Dak Prescott as an anytime touchdown scorer at 4-1. You can grab that, of course, at DraftKings, the mobile sports betting app. Make sure you download that. And, of course, use the promo code 518. That is what we use here at Gozilla Media, and that will get you a $5 wager on any of these games over the weekend, and will get you $280 in those free bets. Moving on quickly here, bro. I know that we want to cover these two games, and I know you have some college picks that you like. So let's move on. Here's the lights were working for you. They're not for me. As we're trying to work this out.
As you fix on that, I'll get us right into this Pittsburgh-Kansas City game. We're talking Sunday at 8:15 start. Pittsburgh opens at a 12.5-point dog right now. I'm going to be all over KC. I think that Big Ben has seen his tenure, unbelievable career for Ben Roethlisberger, but it has come to a close. And I think that Patrick Mahomes and the rest of KC feels like they need it. They want to get out to a great start in this playoffs. I'm not a big proponent of favorites, especially in playoff time. But I love KC here minus the 12.5. Pittsburgh has been too inconsistent on the offensive end, defensive end, and KC should run away with this game just like they did in the last time they faced each other.
Yeah, it's just so hard to jump on Pittsburgh right now. And I think if this number continues to go in Kansas City's favor, if you get over 14, I still think that's a lot, but Kansas City has so much firepower. And, of course, you have TJ Watt, ties Michael Strahan's sack record. I was teasing a few guys because it's an asterisk, because it's an extra game, but still has had a tremendous season. Could very well be your defensive player of the year. And looking at the way Kansas City is, someone asked me 2 weeks ago, says, if you had to choose two teams right now to meet in the Super Bowl, I'm taking the same teams that played last year. Give me Tampa Bay and Kansas City. I think I'm never going to go wrong with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. This game, yes, 12.5 is a lot. I think they blow them out. Pittsburgh, by the fourth quarter, it's going to be a lot of talks of how great Ben's career has been. And, it really has been probably a Hall of Fame career, but I don't think Pittsburgh goes anywhere past Kansas City. I think they cover the 12.5 relatively easily in this game.
Yeah, well, we've been on a lot of games together so far, so hopefully it's going to be a good week for us.
I can hope so, man.
Going into my prop bet, I'm going to be going Travis Kelce, 2 or more touchdowns scored in this game. I know that normally it's going to be Pittsburgh that goes to their tight ends, but we know that Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the game. Tyreek Hill also coming off a little bit of that injury still with that ankle. Not sure if he's going to be 100%. We know he's going to be playing, but to what extent and what extent he'll need to play, I don't know. So I'm going to take Travis Kelce at plus 450 to have 2 or more touchdowns scored.
Boy, I like those. If you the problem I have with doing touchdown scores with Kansas City is they have so many weapons with Hill and Kelce and Williams in the backfield. And of course, Mahomes is a guy, if I would look at, if you want to sprinkle an anytime touchdown score on him, that's a great one here if you want to grab some sort of value. Because I always look at quarterbacks, you tend to get better value. And of course, they have to run it in for that. He's plus 330 if you want to look at anything a little bit bigger. This one, for me, the easy one, you're not going to get a lot of value on, but he is a red zone machine if you think Pittsburgh can score in this game. And that's Pat Freiermuth. He's a guy that just gets touchdowns in the red zone for Pittsburgh. I like him at plus 250. I can't really trust Matt Mahomes and most of the guys on Kansas City because he has so many options. So I love that you're going for a big value because you pick one and hopefully he has a day. And usually tight ends can have big days against Pittsburgh. So I think we're both going with the tight ends from each team. Hopefully they can get a score here in a game that looks like it could be a blowout on Sunday night. Bringing us to our final wild card game of the weekend, bro. On Monday, Arizona Cardinals, Rams, NFC West matchup. Rams minus 3.5. You're getting that at minus 115. So the game was 4 earlier this afternoon. Again, taping on Wednesday afternoon. The game has gone to 3.5. Where are you looking here when it comes to a side? The over-under 49 in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from the over-under. I think that both teams have been too inconsistent so far this year. Ever since Kyler came back from his injury, he wasn't what he was before that injury. However, I'm still going to go with them. I think that Matthew Stafford just isn't a winner. At the end of the day, I just don't think that he wins. I'm going to take the Cardinals, not just plus a 3.5. I'm going to take a money line at plus 160. I like for them to win this game. Their defense is phenomenal. Kyler can get outside the pocket and try to limit Donald as much as possible and Von Miller. So hopefully he can get outside the pocket and do some damage with his legs.
Yeah, I'm scared on this game because I do agree with a lot of stuff that you've talked about. And when it comes to, to pick a side, it's really tough for me. I think this is one of the toughest games of the weekend. I think I agree with you that both of these teams have been very, very inconsistent throughout this entire season. But I do have a future wager on the Rams to win the NFC. I'm going to ride with them in this game. I do think that this number stays close to the 3.5. And ultimately, I don't agree with the Stafford loser mentality. I think he really didn't have a team ever. He had one of the best wide receivers ever to play with him in Detroit, and they never had anyone around him. So finally, he has some talent. They just made a great acquisition earlier today to get Weddle, who's going to play safety for him. So I think that defense is going to get better in the secondary. Kyler Murray's going to have to take over if they're going to win. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball with James Conner. With Aaron Donald, how good he is, I think it's going to be Murray scrambling. If he can make plays, they'll probably win the game. I don't see that happening, so we're against each other in this game. I'm going to go with the Rams.
Oh, geez, it's about time. So, I'm actually in this game.
They were thinking we're going to collaborate together all the time once they started to listen, and now they know.
Yeah, so I'm going to go towards my game prop here. We're going to be going team total. I'm going to go the team total over for the Cardinals at 22.5. It's one of those numbers that I like. 3 touchdowns and a field goal. I think that they'll be able to put up some points. Not sure how many.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a little bad connection here as we're trying to work with Jimmy there. So he's trying to break down that game, and it's going to be interesting too because with this game, I don't know, I don't really know where we're going to go. And for you, props for me. I like when you look at certain ones. How do you not go Cooper Kupp in this game? If you want to look at like over receptions, he won the Triple Crown this year when it comes to receivers. Hard not to take a hard look his way. And you're going to go with the Cardinals team total. I like that because you have confidence in that team. For me, I'm going to stay with Cooper Kupp, and I'm going to go with him over 2.5 touchdowns, and you're going to get a lot of value there. And I agree there's a lot of places people can go, like Odell Beckham Jr. and stuff like that. I just think that Cooper Kupp is the guy. If Matthew Stafford and the Rams are going to win this game, they're going to give the ball to Cooper Kupp. So grab him at over 2.5 touchdowns there at DraftKings Sportsbook. And, bro, there it is. There's a super wild card weekend. And I know that a lot of what you'll get here on Get the People Paid is we'll try to give you as many games in timely manners as we can. And we will try and tape as close to these games as we possibly can. Obviously, it doesn't make it very easy when we're getting into college basketball and the NBA because we're looking at games so far out. So make sure you do your due diligence as well. We'll give you the best we can with what we have the day of the broadcast. But when you look at it, if lines change a lot, maybe stay away. Or if you want to, again, hit us up on Twitter at Get the People Paid. You, of course, can hit us up and we will give you any suggestions that we have for any of these games. And, bro, I know Wednesday afternoon you've been looking at a couple games that you tend to like. Why don't you break down some of those bets that you've looked at so far? We were doing our prep for the show this week.
Yeah, so as I told you guys, big college basketball guy. I am a Duke fan. However, you'll see that I don't like to play my teams most of the time. However, I love the over in the Duke-Wake Forest game tonight. Both teams are averaging over 80 points a game. Wake Forest is a team that can shooting around 37% from three this year and over 45% field goal total. Duke is a team that likes to get up and down the court. So if you can find Wake Forest getting out to an early lead in this game, whether it's just by a few points, you force Duke to kind of turn their hand and continue to push the pace. Some news just broke about an hour or so ago. Coach K will not be coaching in the game tonight, non-COVID related issues. But this is the passing of the torch anyway over to Shire. So he's going to know what to do with these guys up and down the court. Both teams are going to be fast-paced. I'm going to take the over at 152 for tonight. Heading into tomorrow, Thursday, another college basketball game. Georgetown is home versus Butler. Butler cannot score. I don't like their offense. They like to walk the ball up the court. Chuck Harris likes to chuck threes. And fortunately for me, he just likes to miss them the majority of the time. So I'm going to take Georgetown -2 at home tomorrow versus Butler.
Yeah, and I'm also a big college basketball guy. You tend to look at a lot of the top 25 teams. You know them very well. I like to, again, being a Duke fan as well, I stay away from Duke because they're talking about inconsistent at times. I just can't do it. For not only for my heart, but for just my wallet. Sometimes I just tend to go the wrong way there. So I have a couple that I like tonight as well. If you're listening to us as this drops on Wednesday afternoon, UMass Lowell's coming to town to play UAlbany tonight, and they announced earlier this week that the UAlbany Cup is coming back. So not this season, but the end of this year, next basketball season, that game will be played at the MVP Arena in a neutral court game, then 2023 at SEFCU Arena, then back for a home game for Siena in 2024 at MVP Arena. UMass Lowell comes to town, and good friend of mine, former UAlbany associate head coach John Yachty, coming into town as well. UMass Lowell is a 2.5-point favorite in this game. UAlbany and Dwayne Killing still just trying to figure things out. The pace is frantic, and he shows up and can get points. I just don't think that they're ready to beat teams of this caliber. I think UMass Lowell won a great game at UMBC last time out with another associate coach from UAlbany and Josh Pelletier with that team. I think UMass Lowell wins this game tonight. You can take a -2.5 against UAlbany. Again, for people outside of New York, some of the sports books not giving you that option, but you're able to do that if you want. I take another NBA game. I know you like to stay away from NBA games, bro, but I like the over in the Miami Heat and Atlanta Hawks game tonight. That is at 221 on DraftKings Sportsbook. I think both teams like to push the pace. Kevin Huerter's now back and healthy. Trae Young back and healthy as well, all playing tonight. I just think this game has a frantic pace to it. And I think it has to be a high-scoring first half because we've seen a lot in the NBA games you play overs. This third quarter is kind of the critical quarter for you, so you don't have to put so much pressure on the fourth. I just like the way these two teams get back and up and down the floor, and I think the Miami Heat are the real deal this year, being 10 games over 500. So I'm going to take the over in that game at 221 tonight when it comes to the NBA. Bro, I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun here for our first episode, and I know that, a lot of people don't know about you, that they've been around Gozilla Media, but we're just more than happy to have you join us here on Get the People Paid as a new co-host. And I think a lot of people are going to realize that when I say you're the luckiest guy that I've ever met and that I'm related to, there you'll end to find this out. So you want to make sure you check us out every single week here on Get the People Paid. And if things don't working out like the lights are so far in this episode, it seems to be the case. Make sure you follow Jimmy, on Twitter, because he gives a lot of great picks, and he's one of the luckiest guys that you'll ever go around. With the lights going out here, that is the lights out on episode number 2, the first one with a new co-host in Jimmy Mariano, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, bro. He's saying out here that is the end here of episode 2. Again, you can get us on Apple Podcast, Spotify. Check out GozillaMedia.com and everything that's going on there. Our great sponsors, John Stowe Supply, Mohawk Honda, DraftKings Sportsbook, where we get all of our lines here at Get the People Paid. And we will see you next week as we break down another episode here of Get the People Paid.